at the ceiling right now. I do apologize. I really do. I wish there was something else that you could look at that's better than that, but everything. So today I will be watching some true crime stories. And if I feel like talking about them, I will. I might fall asleep to it. Who knows? But the true crime marathon begins shortly. But before I get into it, I would like to thank everybody who has subscribed. Everybody who has not subscribed, I don't know what you're grateful for. The content is only going to get better. Right now, it's shitty quality. I have to work with what I have, okay? But I'm doing the best that I can given the circumstances. So I hope people that can see me trying and show some kind of appreciation for me putting forth an effort. But sometimes I don't be like that, okay? So anyways, I don't like to hear him. I don't like to hear him. But we can stop him. But it'll be gone in short. I might get the chomping on ice. Hey.
What's going on, Graveyard Shift family? It is your fearless ship leader, Davis Frank, clocked in for another amazing ship. Family, tonight I have a story for you.
From the parking lot.
It took a lot of research. Shout out to
all
our
right,
team
baby.
for pulling together this story and sending it on. Without y'all, I could not. After that, I'm grateful for you. Y'all, this is about a woman named Roberta Elder.
What happened to her?
This woman was born in like 1909.
18. She was born a long time ago.
Black woman.
Okay, she's.
Y'all, she is known as one of the first female serial killers.
The first female serial killer? Wow.
I know what you think.
Really? The first? Yeah.
That don't fit the usual profile.
It's shut up.
But yes, this woman killed literally 14 people. But what makes this story even more wild is the fact that she killed these people and they were all pretty much in her family.
Oh. Wow.
Now, a lot of people speculate that she was killing people for insurance money. Because after doing a lot of research, they ended up finding out that all the victims that passed away, she was on their insurance policy. Here's the kicker. This was like in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. Them insurance policies was only $20.
Wow.
No, $20. $30. $50.
That was a lot of money back then, though.
She ever got on one of her insurance policies was $500. Now, back in the day, that was a lot of new change. That was a lot of money. But dang, the work you had to put into it.
For that little bitty, amount, yeah.
That's insane. That's insane. Y'all, this lady, Roberta Elder. Let me just take you back to the beginning where she started.
She look it.
Good. So Roberta's mother and father had 15 kids. Roberta was like number 11 out of 15. So you can only imagine being, poor in the South. Her family was literally, her parents were literally just removed from slavery. You know what I'm saying? So she herself wasn't too far removed from slavery and the effects thereof it. So we're talking about dirt poor, a lot of mouths to feed, and just no telling what that household was like growing up. So much so that Roberta actually dropped out of school at the age of 11. She taught herself to read, write, all that stuff.
What,
she didn't continue school after that. And at the age of 15, Roberta got married. Which I ain't really far-fetched back in the day. Back in the day, it wasn't far-fetched when you would get married in your teenage years. But Roberta did get married at the age of 15.
But who did she marry?
She married a gentleman by the name
Benjamin Button.
Willie Thurman.
Willie Thurman.
So a gentleman by the name of Willie Thurman. Willie Thurman, they ended up moving moving in together, getting
Yeah,
married, moving
Willie
in, they
Thurman
had
is
a
the
daughter.
crazy name.
Now here's the
I
thing.
don't know why.
The very first daughter was a child by the name of Lily.
Oh, that's a cute name though.
But Lily ends up passing away as an infant. So early on into young Lily's life, she passes away. And law enforcement has actually accredited Lily's death to Roberta and saying that is, in fact, her very first kid.
What?
Was her
I
young
mean,
daughter,
what was the cause of death?
This would be their youngest child. Another daughter who was named Willie Mae. But then,
That's fucked up.
on April 14,
Willie Mae.
1931, at 10 p.m., Willie Mae Thurman was found dead at 25 days old.
Killing these babies.
This is now the second child of Roberta who has died in the infant stages.
Weird.
Little Willie Mae was only 25 days old when she passed away. Her cause of death at the time was put as acute bronchial pneumonia.
Wow.
Acute bronchial pneumonia. Now, soon after Willie Mae passes, Willie and Roberta end up getting a divorce. That's two of their children have died since they've been married. And I guess, Willie just couldn't take it. So he ended up filing for a divorce from Roberta. So soon after that, Roberta didn't stop. That didn't stop. No show for Roberta. But soon after her divorce from Willie, Roberta marries a guy named John Woodard.
John Woodard.
Now, Willie and Roberta had a son in between the two daughters of them, a son named James. So once she got a divorce from Willie, she ends up taking her son James and moving in with her new husband, John.
That's a fucked up.
James
James is the old man named John James.
So now in this new house, it is Roberta, her new husband John, and her son from her previous marriage, James.
Why she just kept James alive though? Weird.
In
And she killed
1938,
two of her daughters.
old
Shit
John
on the front.
gets admitted to the hospital. Grady Hospital, to be exact, which is still here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the number one
Oh,
treatment unit in the
he's
area.
in Atlanta with
You see,
what's the name? Atlanta Street
John
interview.
was very, very sick. And 2 days later, he ends up dying. They listed the cause of death for John as possible chronic nephritis and uremia. John was only 36 years old. Now, 4 months later, after John passes away, her son James from her previous marriage, he gets sick.
Oh, she waited a while for
And so doctors started treating James for influenza.
him.
They thought little James was being sick from influenza. So the doctor ends up seeing James alive on, like, say, June the 12th. But by June 26th, literally 2 weeks later, James died too. I don't think y'all keeping up.
Yeah, we are.
Roberta has now lost 2 daughters. She has lost
She killed the
a
2 daughters
second
first,
husband,
and then she
and she
waited
has
to kill her
lost a
son.
son. That is 4 people she has
Willie
lost
got out of there
in a
before he could
span
get killed.
of
That's what it
roughly
sound like to me.
7 years in her life. And she's accused
Willie
of murder.
Thurman is smart as a bitch.
Let's keep the story going. Now, after little James passes away, she has no kids and she has no husband. She's been divorced once and she's killed one, and all of her kids are dead. So Roberta is free as a bird. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying that's what she did. But knowing Roberta, she couldn't be single for too long, y'all. That paper started running out. So what did Roberta do? She reverted right back to what she knew best, finding love. So Roberta ends up marrying a guy named James Garfield Crane in the early 1930s.
James Garfield
James
sounds like
was a widower, so he lost his wife.
he sounds like he could have been a president with that name, James Garfield.
So James was married before his wife passes away and leaves him with 5 children. One of his children ended up passing away. So James had 4 kids when he meets Roberta.
Ooh,
What do you think happened?
she gonna kill all them kids.
Roberta Here go James. James ends up marrying Roberta, and they make a home together in Atlanta, Georgia in 1941.
Oh, they're from Atlanta.
Now, one of James's daughters is pregnant at the time. She ends up having the baby. So James's daughter and her child lives with Roberta and James in their new home. So Roberta's an excited grandmother at this point to her new step grandbaby, right? So she starts watching and taking care and loving on the baby and just being pretty much the primary caretaker of her step grandchild. Sure enough, the child ends up getting sick. And days later,
why did that not surprise me? Like, this is a pattern.
This child was listed as bronchial pneumonia and general weakness.
Like, what?
If you're keeping track, this is now Roberta's 5th victim.
And two of them had the same cause of death, allegedly. So how was she killing them?
That was 3 years old. Some kind of way she convinced the mother to allow her to have the baby and to watch the baby at her house. Roberta takes in her little cousin, her 3-year-old cousin. And just like history repeated itself again, the little child became sick, and days later, the child passed away. Now, after losing the life of her infant child cousin,
Man, I was blocked off on the street behind it.
she like, look,
Off-putting
it's
a little bit.
baby's dying around here. Let me come check on my girl. She moves in with Roberta.
That's a cute notice, though. I'm not gonna lie.
And not too long after, a few months, her mother becomes
It's
sick.
just weird that all those trees are
We're talking about what is at stake. We're not talking about hypothetical, about what doctors
Girl, quit talking about steak.
would face up to 99 years in prison for providing abortion. That is the law here in Texas.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, no. No. Get off my screen, bitch.
A few days later after that, her mother died. Yo, her mama was just 69. And they couldn't even find out how she died. Like, it came back undetermined. Like, what? That was Roberta's 7th victim.
Man,
She had 14. She had
Roberta was
14.
like crazy. They killed her own family, though. That's the most
Then
fucked up
in
part about it.
1947, Roberta's husband, James Garfield Crane, ended up dying of food poisoning. It was pretty much believed that the food was contaminated while being processed, but not by a person. That's what the records say. He was allegedly Roberta's 8th victim. Now, Roberta lives at this house in Atlanta, Georgia, all by herself, that she created with this man.
Hey, Popcorn.
Everyone's dead.
Dang, I ain't seen Popcorn in a minute, y'all.
This man is dead.
Popcorn.
His children are dead. She
Looks like,
lived in this house all by
Rocky
herself.
Playhouse. And code
So,
941
Roberta
who
starts
mysteriously
to
like
try to
deleted
make
her
money on this.
channel.
She didn't have any plausible victims at this
You
time.
got some
She
people
started
I've
taking
known
in
for
girls.
over
And one of
6
her
years
girls was a
on
young woman by the name of Nora. You see, Nora moved in
so it's
with
always
Roberta
crazy with
and
people.
just lived her life.
New
She
people.
thought she came up on some sweet.
Or
She
not
had a
new
nice
people,
house,
but old faces.
nice
Yeah.
size house,
New
with a sweet
views.
woman named Roberta who would help take care of her. She
But
was
wow,
fine.
this lady was nuts.
So then,
Roberta killed all
Roberta
these
goes out
people that were her kids.
and meets a family. Now, this family has a mother, a father, and they have, what is it, 4 children, I want to say? No, excuse me, 5 children. Somewhere down the line, the mother becomes ill, and Roberta takes it on herself to
I
become
wonder how
pretty
old
much the nurse for
cemetery
this
is.
ailing woman.
The headstones
This
don't look
mother
that
of
bad
mine.
though. So unless
And
I'm
as soon as Roberta came
that
into
old.
the picture, the mother mysteriously dies from her sickness. This was in January. By May, Roberta has married this woman's husband. This is
Why
Reverend
are these
Elder.
men marrying?
Her name's
Like what?
you see, Reverend Elder was a pastor, He was just trying to live his life, take care of his sick wife, and take care of his
I don't see
kids.
what's so special about it, baby.
So once the wife dies, 5 months later, Roberta and Reverend Elder get married.
Reverend Elder.
And Roberta moves Pastor and his kids into the home in which she had already killed with multiple people.
What the hell?
And unbeknownst to them, their lives were about to be cut very, very short. Very quickly.
She got away with
1951,
1951.
Mr. Elder had 2 daughters, right? Annie Pearl and Fannie Mae. Now, exactly 1 year after the death of their mother, after moving in with Roberta in their body, Annie Pearl dies of pneumonia. Literally 2 months later, Fannie Mae also dies of pneumonia. And then, maybe about 6 or 7 months later, you remember that boarder, Nora, the elderly lady that Roberta was helping take care of in her house? She surprisingly passes away in that same home. If you're keeping count, now we're up to 12.
There's no way that home is still even there. And if it's still there,
In
that
August of
motherfucker is gotta
1952,
heavily,
Reverend William Elder
heavily
became
infested
very ill
with
after bananas and
spirits.
cheese where he worked on his construction job. Right? A doctor came to look at him and they left him
I would
there
like to
care
see that
for him.
house if it's still there.
Roberta
That's
claims
what
that
I
she
would,
treated him by giving him milk and
or what
magnesium.
area, or what piece
And
of
literally
land.
a few
Yeah,
days later,
no,
the doctor
it's
called back.
gone right now
This time,
because, whoo,
Reverend Elder was dying. He ended up dying at home.
it
that
wouldn't
same
put,
night.
it wouldn't surprise. Okay, so Reverend Elder died
The
too.
doctor now starts to get suspicious. He was like,
Everybody,
8 people that died in this house now.
what the hell?
Literally. Something
And,
might be
and
going
she's
on.
not dead.
It was enough for them to start exhuming the bodies of people that passed away and running tests. Come to find out, they found traces of arson in every body system. People start putting 2 together. Next thing you know, Roberta was arrested, tried, and found guilty and sent to prison for the murders that she committed.
She was sent to prison,
Just like the American judicial system, man, it
not
always
put
works
to death,
kind
huh?
of funny. And after doing a decent bid, she ended up getting paroled and released from jail.
What?
And in the latter part of her life, she even fought to get her rights to vote, which she obtained. And old Roberta ends up living to 1977, where she passes away at 41.
What did she pass away from?
That's her. That's her. And to imagine living in a house in the middle of a neighborhood in the year 2024 and not even knowing history. That's why you gotta always check out the history of where you live.
I
Because you
did
just
it,
never know.
but I still
guarantee the
don't
people
know
living in this house
what
do
the
not know
real
that a
history
woman
of this
in
building is.
1940s
It's been here for
killed
a long
8
time,
people
so it's not
in
a
the house that
surprise.
they
It's
were
something.
currently living in.
It's something
It makes me want to go check out and
crazy
see if they
happening.
have any stories themselves.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow. Wow, was right here. So he just chilling at the cemetery. He just chilling at the cemetery like it's normal.
As you can see,
He got his water bottle. Got something to sit on.
resting place of Miss Roberta Elder.
That's where she was buried. Okay.
Now, Miss Elder, my name is Damon Spratt. And what I do is I come to resting communities like this And I try to speak to those who may not have been spoken to in a very long time.
Oh, he tried to talk to him too.
What
So
I
not
also
only is he
do
telling
is
us stories,
I try to
but
find
he's trying to
stories
communicate
of
with
the past and
the
try
people
to
that have
bring
passed
new
on.
light on them in the present
That's
to all
very,
of our
very,
viewers. We don't need
very
to listen to
interesting,
revolving
very cool.
about
That
true
sets him
figures. We
apart
can
from a
move
lot of other
forward for
motherfucking
some
people that do
Gustavo
the same
Fall
type of
factor.
content.
She brought
Good
Democrats
for
and
him. Good
Republicans
for
together.
him.
$1 on drugs coming from
Hi.
China and Mexico. Standing by with an eye drop. She keeps saying.
Me in these commercials or ads, I can't do it.
And Miss Elgin, today you are the topic of conversation. There's been a lot of stories circulating around about you, and I think you know that. So what I would like to do is I would like to talk to you today. I'm coming in peace, love, and respect. I don't judge. I'm here to just get your side of the story if you would like to speak to me. Again, there's no pressure, there's no judgment. I'm sure you've been dealing or have dealt with that judgment wherever you are now. But I'm just kind of curious about your story and what happened. So, Miss Elder, Miss Roberta Elder, are you here?
She might not even be there, right? She could be somewhere completely else. Is that the EVP thing, or the thing that they use to talk to
Miss
them?
Roberta, are you here?
Check that. Hi. He lives.
Okay. Miss Elder, just so I know that's you, can you tell me your name?
That's his fake name.
Do you mind saying your name for me, please?
She ain't there. It's a whole bunch of other stuff over there.
Okay. Miss Roberta, this is how I know that I'm talking to you. Because I really don't want to speak to anyone else but you right now. Okay. Miss Roberta, I'm just going to assume that I'm speaking to you now.
Wait.
Your two sisters? Your parents had 15 kids altogether?
Had enough. Move it. I can imagine that these spirits don't like to be questioned.
You hated it?
I think she was abused or something, and she started to probably
What did you
hate
hate about growing
family.
up with a large family?
They had favorites. And you wasn't one of them, probably. We gonna go with the narrative that he is talking to her.
Y'all, I don't know why it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Uh-huh.
What if that's where all of her anguish and anger stemmed from? Growing up with such a large family, maybe there was a disconnect, and which made her not be connected to her family that much. There was just so many, and it was so little. And then therefore that disconnect carried over to her life, which allowed her to be able to take the lives of her family. So maybe subconsciously, consciously, she was killing off what really affected her in her childhood.
Exactly.
Let me find out I am a spiritual counselor. A spiritual counselor. Roberta,
Please calm
I know
down.
I jumped into it fast. I went 0 to 60 real quick.
Yeah. Calm down.
Did that sound about right?
Thank you.
That's why I said thank you. So you were dealing with a lot? So what happened as a child?
Yeah, it's some stuff that she ain't gonna say that happened. Somebody hurt her. They didn't have
Do
food,
you
bro.
feel like you were neglected in school?
They wasn't feeling ill. Where's Mary Ellen?
Do you feel like you were shown love by your mother and father?
Not look forward to getting
You said you wouldn't ask for it or wouldn't ask for it? Did you receive love from your siblings? So who did you have a problem with growing up?
it seemed like her parents.
Men.
Men. Yeah. I felt like it was something about men too, but then I was like, why would she not just target the men instead of going after the kids too? But like, somebody did something to her. He probably beat on her, raped her, all types of stuff.
Did some man hurt you?
I could definitely see that. And we killed him.
Were you able to get any help?
Somewhat, but what? Not obviously it wasn't help enough because she went on to do what she did.
Okay. So you dropped out of school pretty early.
It was a lot of the kids that was getting molested and stuff, so it wasn't just her. At 11 years
What
old.
made you leave school so early? Your parents?
Yep, because they was abusing her. And so a lot of the times when parents abusing their kids, they take them out of school so that
Okay.
the abuse isn't
So then they
documented.
say at about 15 you end up getting married. Now is that someone you truly love?
Absolutely not. He said it was an arranged situation.
So did you love the man you married at the age of 15?
I feel like she was incapable of loving someone. She just wanted to get out of that situation and be on her own and be
The man
exposed.
you married at 15, did you have love for him?
Nope.
That's going to be very, very accurate. So let me see. I just want to be very, very accurate with your story.
Chanel says.
Okay. So at
Interesting.
15, you married Willie Thurman.
Uh-huh.
So you married a man named Willie when you was 15.
Not the way he said Willie though.
And
He
that's
said
when you
Willie.
had a daughter named Willie.
We married Willie and you had a daughter named Lily.
Now, Miss Roberta.
And what was the other one named? Hattie Mae or something. Maybe it was Willie Mae.
What made you marry Willie then?
It's,
A lot of things. So what was the main thing?
People, humans, are so fucking clueless. Well, all the while you think you talking to Miss
So soon after that, you had a
I forgot what her name was. Whatever this lady, Rosetta. Something start with an R, right? Roberta. So the whole time you think you talking to Roberta,
Do you remember having your little girl?
and you could be talking to a whole bunch of different other spirits there. It is a cemetery after all. Use our brains here, sir.
So unfortunately, they say little Billy passed away.
Yeah, that baby passed away because
Do you remember
oh,
how
Roberta
Billy
killed.
passed away?
Come on now. You should. She was sick.
People are saying that you were the reason why Lily passed away. They have?
Not who would say that. So she probably didn't even ever admit to that, even though it happened.
That was the first life that you took? Wow. Wow. So her daughter Lily was her first body that she, the first person that she, whose life she took. Sound like she said she was just pregnant. Okay, let's see.
That's crazy.
So you and Willie also had a son named James. Then you guys moved to Atlanta. You then had another daughter named Willie Mae.
Lily Mae.
But then Willie Mae passed away. at
Oh,
the
Lily and
age
Willie
of
Mae.
25
Okay, yeah.
years old due to pneumonia.
Willie was the died.
Your daughter Willie Mae passing away? So you keep crying? Afterwards, yeah. So why were you crying so much about Willie Mae passing away?
Not I enjoyed it.
But did you have something to do with Willie Mae passing away?
She got it dead. It was alive. Dead.
Do you remember how many people you killed? Okay. So at that point, she's killed two of her children.
Mhm.
Or believed to have killed two of her children. Okay? And then after that, soon after Willie Mae's death, Willie and Roberta, you and your husband divorced, and then you married a guy by the name of John, and you keep your son James. So it looks like Willie got away unscathed. Let me ask you this, Roberta.
That's
Would
funny.
you have killed Willie if he would have stayed?
She definitely would have killed the Willie. Yes. Absolutely.
Roberta, why did you never kill Willie? Why would you kill your children but not Willie?
Willie was great for her.
Did you really love Willie?
Yeah, I loved his Willie. And of course, she loved him incredibly.
I think that's interesting that she killed both of their
So
children.
why would she kill their children? Oh.
She allowed him to leave out of the divorce. So then she marries another gentleman by the name of John. And she keeps her son from her and Willie's relationship. She brings him to the relationship with John. Now, they then move in with John, her new husband. And in 1938, John is admitted to the hospital. He becomes very ill and he dies later on, like 2 days later. And this is his death is chronic nephritis and uremia. He was just 36 years old.
I wonder if they have some
So okay,
animated true crime, right? Cause that be my I'm really childish. I like anime and I like true crime. So put them all together and what you get, animated true crime. Yeah, I'm thinking it's not something that's been done already. It is something that somebody else needs to embark on. Space, true, T or you, not true horrors, but yeah, true horrors is ones along the lines of true crime as well. It just when you look it up, it should pop up right away. So space, C. Okay, so here it is, right here. Um, what is this? It's 24 minutes. You got a whole bunch of them, babe. They got one that's like true crime
I
horror
find it
stuff.
very ironic.
Yes, let's go.
My
Let's do
mom broke
this.
at 18 weeks, and my doctor told us there's no way to save the baby. The air got sucked out of the room.
For
What the heck?
54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade
Oh
terminated,
my
and I
god.
did it. We couldn't get help for Amanda.
We had to wait for me to get so sick that I was almost dead. I do fear that
I find it very ironic how the woman I once called the love of my life
Wait, come here,
is the
Trick.
very same person who destroyed everything that
I'm
I
eating
held
on
dear.
my tricks and watching this.
She was a total lifeless, as I can still remember when I first met her 20 years ago. Her name was Susan, and she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen.
Really? Look at
I
me.
met her at school, and we hit it off immediately.
Alright.
We were basically inseparable after that. Susan was a wild girl who liked guns, and even if we didn't see eye to eye on everything, I still loved her with all my
Well,
heart.
she like the gun, so you better
We dated for a while after graduating before I
feel
got my
safe
question,
and secure
and
with
she
her.
made me the happiest man by saying yes.
Or she might shoot
We
you.
then got married in a beautiful ceremony, and we settled down. It wasn't long after that before we were blessed with a beautiful baby girl. And a
Aw.
few years after the birth of our first daughter, our second daughter was born. I truly admired and cherished my little family. Susan loved her girls as they were her pride and joy, and we were really happy. But unfortunately, our happiness didn't
Nice
last
home.
long. As over the years, things started to get worse.
Like how?
I can't remember when I first noticed it, but I slowly watched the woman I loved turn into someone else. Susan's entire character had now changed, as she became overly anxious and paranoid.
Oh,
At
you
first,
know,
I
yeah.
thought she was going through a
Mental
phase
health
that would
stuff.
soon pass, but things took a turn for the worse as Susan attempted to take her life
It
on
could have been
numerous
like,
occasions. I still loved Susan with all my
well,
heart, so I did everything I could to help her. I started by checking her into
I
a
was gonna
private
say,
mental health facility,
postpartum,
and it
but
was at this facility
maybe
that I
not.
was told Susan was suffering from depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. Due to this, the therapist had
Bipolar,
to put her on
probably.
numerous prescription pills to help. Things got a bit better for a while after that, as Susan
Borderline
started doing well, and we were finding our footing as a couple again.
personality.
But
Them the
tragedy
type of
struck
people that
as
hurt
Susan's
themselves.
grandfather died. Susan loved that man with all her heart. He was also the reason for her love of firearms,
Crazy
as
ass.
she'd inherited a 38 caliber handgun from him. She really struggled with the news, as her grandfather's loss hurt her deeply. To make matters even worse, she also lost her mother just 2 months after that.
Mm.
All of this was too much for Susan to handle, and she fell into a downward spiral. All the progress she made instantly went down the drain, and she was now worse than before. I knew she was going through a lot, so I tried my best to support her and help get her through it. But no matter what I did, nothing worked. As Susan just kept getting worse with each passing day. All this took a huge toll on our relationship, as expected. But even with everything she was going through, Susan's relationship with our daughters remained perfect. She talked about them all the time, and she was so proud of them. I also loved our daughters and the women they had grown to become. Our eldest daughter was 22 now. She just graduated and started working. She was also seeing a long-term boyfriend who I liked, and it seemed like they were going to tie the knot soon. My youngest daughter was also done. She was 17 and in high school. I loved my girls so much that I was willing to try my best to make things work with Susan.
Man, hell no. I don't know when in hell. That was crazy. They grown. I would have been
But
gone.
it felt like I was pouring water on a hard rock. It was so hard for me to admit, but I now knew that after more than 20 years of being together, our marriage was over. I waited until my upcoming 45th birthday to tell Susan that I didn't want to be in our marriage anymore. I figured it would be the best time to tell her.
How you just gonna tell her that and you know she unstable, bruh?
The celebration didn't start off
What is wrong with her?
Susan and my eldest daughter got into an altercation earlier that day.
You crazy.
She was opposed to our daughter marrying her
Or
long-term
stupid.
boyfriend, and Susan threatened to lock her up in order to stop the marriage. I told Susan that I supported the marriage, and our eldest daughter and I wasn't going to allow her to stop it. All this just made Susan furious, and she had an attitude for the rest of the day. After the argument we all just had, I thought telling Susan about my plans for divorce would have been a bad idea. But I decided to get it over with, so I called her somewhere private, and I told her I wanted to leave. After I broke the news to Susan, her eyes turned crazy as she looked at me and said,
You don't want to do this, Mark. I am telling you that you do not want to do this.
I then responded with, but I've tried all I could, Susan. You know that I've tried. But you
She about
just
to
don't
kill
care.
your ass,
Our
nigga.
marriage is dying and I'm tired of doing everything I can to save it when neither of us wants this anymore. Susan then looked at me dead in the eyes and said,
I'm going to make your life a living hell if you even think about living with me, Mark. I swear that I'll make you suffer, and you'll feel a pain that you've never felt before.
I had never seen Susan like that before. So her words shocked me. But I was
I'm telling you, y'all feeling like she is going to torment you.
I've made up my mind about this, and I hope you can be mature enough to do the same. We are happy, so why would you suffer anymore? Come talk to me when you've calmed down. And with that, I left the room. A few minutes after that, Susan called a family meeting in the living room. I told myself that she had probably thought about our recent conversation, and she was ready to tell the family about our separation. But after we'd all been seated, my heart dropped to my stomach, as Susan was now holding her grandfather's gun and pointing it directly at her own family. My girls started screaming as I begged Susan to drop the weapon, but she didn't listen.
You wanna
and
kill the
she
whole
cocked the
family?
loaded gun. I instinctively
Yeah,
put myself in front of my daughters because I assumed I was the one she wanted to shoot. But Susan was aiming for me.
Wow.
She brutally shot her youngest daughter in the neck.
What the hell?
As I rushed towards her, and Susan took the opportunity
What the
to shoot her in
fuck?
the back. Horrified, I immediately took out
Why
my
would she
phone
take that out
and
on
I-
them, though?
As the call went through, I put some distance between Susan and my bleeding daughters, and we managed to run and scramble out of the house. My youngest was bleeding profusely, so she didn't get that far before she collapsed. I could see the fear and terror in her eyes at the last moments, as she wondered why her own mother shot her in cold blood. My eldest was still able to run into the street, but Susan didn't let her escape, as she shot her twice in the back of the head.
Wow.
Susan tried to shoot her again as my daughter was still moving, but she was out of bullets. She went inside to reload, and she came back to shoot her eldest child again in the head. I watched in horror as my two daughters now lay motionless
You
on the
want some
street, and
breakfast?
her mother loomed over them with a gun.
I'm surprised she didn't kill your
I
ass.
didn't
You
care
know?
about anything anymore, as I just wanted Susan to shoot me so I could be with my girls. But she didn't. Instead, she looked at me with a devilish grin, as she knew she had made me suffer the worst thing any parent could experience.
Oh,
Even though she was standing in front of me, I didn't see my wife anymore. All I saw was a heartless demon. Rage soon filled me, and I wanted to kill her with my bare hands. But before I could do anything, the police arrived. They ordered Susan to drop the weapon, but she didn't listen. And after an extra warning, she was shot dead by the officers. As her body
I thought
fell to
you
the
was gonna
floor,
shoot herself.
I didn't feel relief, because all I felt at that moment was pure anger. She'd gotten the easy way out after all she'd done, and I wanted her to pay for the atrocities she had committed. It left a bad taste in my mouth because, as much as I hated to admit it, Susan wanted to leave, as she made sure I saw hell on earth and me an eternal suffering as I completely grieved the loss of my daughters.
Yeah.
It's been about 7 years since this crucial night, but every single
That's
day
fucked up.
I find myself going back to that night when I let my daughters die at the hands of their own mother. There's no day that I don't blame myself, as I always wish I could have given my girls a better mother. She took everything away from me, and she made sure what she did would destroy me. I can still see her grinning face every time I close my eyes as she laughs and enjoys her victory. There's no moving past this, as no amount of therapy can fix me, and I know that I'll suffer this torment for the rest of my days.
Really? Not made a rose up out of a fucking whatever.
The story you just heard was loosely based on the real-life case of Christy Bird Sheets. On the 24th of June, 2016, at around 5 p.m., Christy Sheets brutally shot her daughters, Taylor and Madison Sheets, with a .38 caliber handgun on the street outside their home in Houston, Texas. After the authorities were called, the Fort Bend County Sheriff shot and killed Christy soon after they arrived at the murder scene, as Christy refused to drop her gun. Her eldest daughter, Taylor, died on the street in front of their home, and her sister, Madison, was quickly flown to the Texas Medical Center, where she unfortunately
I don't know if all
couldn't be
that's
saved.
something.
These gruesome murders happened on
You're
Christmas
gonna have an
Jason's 45th birthday.
epileptic.
She pulled the gun right
Epileptic.
from under her chin, and
Fucking
Jason begged Christy, saying,
triggered
"Don't do
spasms.
this.
Like,
There are kids."
uh,
But his pleas fell on deaf ears, as he was unable to stop the atrocities that happened that night. Jason and his daughters could be heard begging Christy with a 911 call that was made on that fateful night. Mr. Sheets lost his mind after the incident, and he was quickly taken to a nearby hospital as he was suffering from severe emotional distress. A few days after the incident, Jason Sheets was interviewed by the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, and he told investigators that his wife had several opportunities to shoot him as well, but he believes she wanted him to live and make him suffer by killing their daughters. Fort Bend County Sheriff Troy
That
Egan
makes all the sense in the world. Otherwise, why would you not kill him?
You look at him as a
Shit.
This is something.
But that's,
he's gonna
yeah,
have to
I was
live
thinking
with
about it
for
too. I
the
was
rest
like,
of
the
his
way
life.
she said she wanted him to suffer, she gonna torture him back.
As for Jason Sheets, he's currently trying his best to move on from the horrific acts carried out by the woman he once called his wife. In recent years, the world as we know it has seen crime rates rise to levels that have never been recorded in history. Luckily, technology and the creation of numerous justice and crime departments have made it almost impossible for one to commit a crime and at the same time get away with it. Although this does not rule out the possibility of getting away with it, as every once in a while, there are crimes, be it misdemeanor or felony, that will completely stump the world and have all defense and justice agencies looking for answers with honor. A perfect example of this would be the case I'm about to share with you. A case so peculiar that it still has yet to be solved.
Go
This is
slow.
the case of the Black
My
Dahlia.
police said Black
Like
Dahlia.
every murder case, the Black Dahlia began with the discovery of the body. On the morning of
really
January
big story.
15th, 1947, a mother had decided to take her child for a walk in Los Angeles neighborhood,
That's my birthday.
Lena Park to be exact. But what she didn't expect was that she would stumble upon what the LA police deemed one of the most horrific crime scenes they had ever set their eyes on. The body was located just a few feet from the site and positioned in such a way that the mother reportedly thought it was a mannequin. But as she got closer, one can only imagine how quickly her heart sank
Ew.
as she realized it was the body of a young naked woman
Bruh.
cut clean in half at the waist. When she realized it was a corpse, she rushed to a nearby house and telephoned with the police. It was a strange sight to all who witnessed the crime scene, as the corpse had been posed
That's
with her
horrific
hands
as
over her
fuck.
head and her legs spread apart, the lower half of her body being a foot away from the upper, and the intestines tucked away deeply beneath her butt. Everything about it was strange and horrific, but what seemed the strangest about the scene was despite numerous cuts and extensive mutilation, There wasn't a single drop of blood on the corpse.
What?
The consequent investigation was carried out by the Los
What
Angeles
was that
Police
all about?
with help from the FBI, tasked to identify the body, which they did rather quickly, in just under an hour. She was identified to be one Elizabeth Short,
Not a drop
a
of blood on her
22-year-old
body,
native
instead.
from Boston, who many
But he
believe was
showed
a
did
silent
mutilated
actress,
her.
despite her lack of acting credits or
Ripped
job
her
at the
insides
time
out
of
and
death.
tucking them
After
under
the body
stuff.
was
This is
identified,
crazy.
medical examiners determined that she had been dead for about 10 hours before the discovery, leaving her time of death sometime between the evening of January
Crazy.
14th and the morning of January 15th. Elizabeth's body had been watched by the killer, and her face slashed from the corners of her mouth, creating something commonly known in the forensics world as the Glasgow smile. In addition to that, the killer also sliced away entire portions of flesh from her thighs and breasts, leading some to believe she was raped right before being executed. The
Well,
LAPD
he
and
could've
FBI
just sliced
prioritized
off
the
her
case for its
genitals
gruesome nature
for his
and they
pure
eventually
enjoyment.
targeted 150 suspects.
A lot
When
of the times these
interrogations proved
motherfuckers do
useless,
this thick
there
ass
were no
shit.
clues as to who killed Elizabeth
It don't make
or
no
why they
sense
did so.
why they did that. You want
As
to
the
make it
case
make
came
sense
to
in
a
your
head,
mind, but it don't.
Elizabeth was given the nickname of
They
the Black
directed
Dahlia,
by their own
as newspapers of the
sick-twisted
period often nicknamed particularly gruesome
whatever
crimes.
agenda.
The term originated from a film noir murder mystery that was popular with that period name, The Blue Diamond. And even more pressure was put on the FBI and LAPD as citizens grew even more concerned. The FBI eventually contacted Elizabeth's mother, Phoebe Short, to inform her of the death to find out if she knew anything that could help them find and apprehend the killer. It turned out, reporters from a newspaper called the Los Angeles Examiner had contacted Phoebe immediately after the body was identified and told her Elizabeth had won a beauty contest in an attempt to get personal information about her from Phoebe. After getting as much info as they could, they eventually broke the news to Phoebe
It
that
is
her daughter had been murdered
this
and
guy's
offered to
targeting
fly
a
her
lot
out
of
to
the
help with the investigation,
a lot
but
of
instead
like
kept her away from the police
beauty
and other
women,
reporters to protect their precious
something like
children.
that.
It's
If I'm not
important to keep in
mistaken.
mind that this was a grieving mother who had just lost her child, but instead of being allowed to grieve and help, was instead being used by the media to fuel their investigations.
Mhm.
The Examiner and press later went on to sensationalize the case, making it seem like something it wasn't by describing
That
how
was
Leonard
creepy.
Sugar was last seen
That
alive
was
as
creepy
a
as the
quote,
motherfucker. I was
attached
like,
her
what am I
to
seeing?
Sherlock.
On the side of the
Phoebe's mother
screen
had
is
no
a
additional
shadow
information for the police, and they were eventually right back where they started.
a man's hair.
Due to the
And it
family
looked
of
so
Elizabeth's
real.
case, the initial
It
investigation
looked like it was
simply called
something from the side of
mostly
the
made by men
screen.
claiming to
Oh
be
my
the
God, I thought it
killer,
was
but they were all deemed
shit
false,
that wasn't there.
and it seemed all hope was lost. Little did they know that this nightmare of a case was just now starting. On January 21st, 1947, 6 days after the body was found, a call was placed with the editor of the newspaper that had been found by the case, claiming he had been Elizabeth's killer and that he eventually planned on turning himself in, but not before allowing the police to pursue him further. Before ending the call, he also told the editor to expect some souvenirs of Elizabeth in the mail. On January 24th, a suspicious envelope was discovered. It had been addressed to the Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers. The envelope had a letter using cut words from newspaper clippings that read, "Here are Dahlia's belongings." It included Elizabeth's birth certificate, business cards, and an address book. The packet had been carefully cleaned with gasoline, similar to the Dahlia's body, and this led the police to believe they were dealing with the actual killer. But despite the efforts to clean the packet, several partial fingerprints were gotten and sent to the FBI to be examined. However, the prints were mysteriously compromised in transit and eventually could not be analyzed. The same day the packet was received, a handbag and a black suede shoe were found just 3 kilometers from where the body was found. But unfortunately, the items had also been cleaned with gasoline and was inevitably just another dead end. On the 14th of
I
March,
didn't know
a
you could
suicide
clean
note
stuff
scrawled
with
in
gasoline.
pencil was found tucked in a shoe in a pile of men's clothing by the ocean's edge in Venice, Los Angeles. The note read, "To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia killing, but they have not. I am too much of a coward to turn myself in, so this is the best way out for me. I couldn't help myself out for that or for this. Sorry, baby." The pile of clothing was reported to the LAPD by the lifeguard captain on the beach, and they included a coat, trousers, a brown and white t-shirt, white jockey shorts, tan socks, and tan Moccasin leisure shoes of about size 8.
Every company thinks I should make more.
I hate you.
What the hell is
I
wrong
don't
with
like
this?
you. I never liked the Jew. Never liked the Jew. Never.
Evidently, like everything else, the clothes gave the police no clues as to who the owner was. The FBI and LAPD continued an intensified investigation by putting up rewards for information and bringing in more suspects. They went back to all pieces of evidence left by the killer in hopes of finding something new. But sadly, the case of Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, was well and truly over, even though they didn't want to admit that. A total of 750 investigators with the LAPD and other departments worked on Elizabeth's case at the time, and a number of suspects, theories, accusations, and arrests took place. The media continued its pursuit of a hot story, and by the spring of 1947, the Black Dahlia case had gone cold. The media received more notes and cryptic messages from the supposed killers, but eventually, all interest died down, and they too gave up on the case and abandoned all hope of solving the case of the Black Dahlia. I know most people watching would believe the insufficient technology they had in 1947 might have proved a factor of the killer being able to evade the authorities while toying with them at the same time. But it should be stated that although the case went cold, as the years passed, the FBI continued investigations and finding the answer to who killed the Black Dahlia and why. The murderer has never been found, and given how much time has passed, probably never will. It remains a mystery, and sadly, a mystery unsolved. I know James
But it was
Wilson
just the
since
case
he
of
began
one
this
girl.
work. He was the definition of a family man. I would
They
always
never
see him
found
with his
the
wife
person
and
that
two little girls, and I often told myself that if I ever got married and had a family, I wanted to be like theirs. They were the picture-perfect family, and they brought a ray of sunshine to our little town. It had been about 5 years since they moved into the neighborhood, and I had bonded with James over our shared love of fishing. We also worked together as oil field operators at a nearby oil storage facility. Our shared job led us to spend a lot of
Oh, I
time
like
together,
that they put
both
the
during and after work,
at the bottom.
and it made us grow even closer. It soon felt like I was part of their little family, as they often invited me over for special dinners and trips. Everything was going great for the family at the time. James was doing well at work, and Diane, who was now 13 weeks pregnant, was expecting a bouncing baby boy. But around the month of July that year, numerous things started to go wrong with their perfect family.
What happened?
It was around this time that James invited me to a fishing trip with the family like he usually did, and I was glad to go. This particular fishing trip went perfectly at first. I would wake up early with James, and we'd go to the lake to start fishing. James's wife Diane would often tell us to spend more time in bed, as she worried we weren't getting enough sleep. She would always say, "Isn't it too early to go fishing? The fish aren't going to grow legs and run off to Mexico anytime soon, so try to get a little more sleep." We usually laughed at her remarks before telling her that we couldn't go back to bed, as any true fisherman knows that one of the best times to fish is very early in the morning, within an hour of sunrise. After spending our mornings fishing, we'd come back to have a little barbecue and grill when we called. We'd usually tell jokes and laugh together during these little barbecues, as James and Diane's little girls played with the grass. But for the first time, things weren't like that, and I could tell something was up. Diane had a worried look on her face, and James was awfully quiet. A little while after this, James left to jump on the grilling fish. Diane then took my hand and said,
Dad, I know you're one of the closest friends my James has, so if you'd like me, there's something I've been meaning to ask you.
I had never seen Diane with such a serious look on her face, so I said, "Sure, I'll answer anything you need to know." Diane then smiled before saying,
Do you know if there's anything going on with James? He's been pretty distant lately.
I had known Diane for about 5 years now, and at that time, I had come to realize that she was one of the sweetest women I'd ever met. She also had a great sense of humor, and she was a good mother to her kids. I would have never pegged Diane as one of those jealous or paranoid wives who always thought something was secretly going on. It was totally out of character, as Diane was nothing like those women. At first, I thought it was just the pregnancy woman I was talking, but I could tell that she was very worried, so I told her, "Look, Diane, there's no need to worry. James is probably just in one of his moods, and it'll pass soon." Diane then looked at me and said,
Are you sure, Ted? Because I really feel like something is off.
I then responded with, "Come on, Diane, it's James we're talking about here. That man loves you to death, so there's absolutely nothing to worry about." My assurances put Diane at ease, and I was glad I was able to clear things up.
Just when you think it ain't
I knew
nothing to
James
worry
very
about,
well.
huh?
He wasn't that kind of man. At the time, I thought Diane was just being anxious and paranoid for no reason. But in the following weeks, I started to notice that there might have been some truth to Diane's work, as James began showing some very odd behavior at work.
Like, wait.
James would mysteriously disappear for a few hours during work, and he'd come back with no real explanation, as any time I asked, he'd just give him bad excuses. He also started arriving late at home, as I rarely saw his car in his driveway when I came home from work. All this seemed very suspicious, and it was very out of character for James. I decided to pay him a visit and ask him about everything the very next day. I knew Diane had been out of the house for a weekend trip, and she wouldn't be arriving until the next day, so I thought it would be the best time to talk. I hoped nothing shady was going on for Diane to say. Once I arrived at work the next day, I tried to find James, but he wasn't there. I told myself he was probably running late, so I waited for him to arrive, but he never did. After work that day, I started preparing to go to James's house to talk with him, but our boss told all of us to stay behind and celebrate with him, as it was his birthday. I couldn't say no, so I ended up staying very late with my boss and colleagues, drinking beer and eating some cake. The small
Who eats cake with that? Who let you just put their fingers and just
I had completely lost track of time, and I was a little bit wasted because I couldn't hold my liquor. It was horrible because I drank a bit too much. So I made my way to my car to sleep for a bit and sober up before making my way home. As I get to my car, I noticed a truck going into the oil storage facility, not that far from where I was parked. It was pretty dark, and I was sure that it was James's truck, and I wondered, what was he doing showing up to work around 3 a.m.? I was about to walk up to him when I saw him pull a woman's body out of the back of
Motherfucker
his
is
truck.
creepy.
The ghastly scene made me freeze as I was shocked to my core. I then watched him pull as James ruffled through the woman on the ground, and even though it was dark, I could tell from his swollen belly that it was his wife, Diane. She fell flat on her stomach, but she didn't scream, and I noticed she wasn't moving.
He killed her
I started to
and the
move toward her,
baby.
but for some reason, my legs couldn't turn. As I said earlier, I had drunk too much beer, and I couldn't even walk. I then saw James drag out 2 little girls from his truck. I tried my best to walk
Dang, he
so I could stop
extra
James, but I helplessly fell to the floor.
Why they
as
always
if
killing family and shit? Like,
There was a bit of distance from the truck, but I could still hear the little girls screaming as they were forcefully dragged out of the car. James then picked up the first girl and held his hand over her face. My vision was
nigga.
blurry, and I couldn't see well, but I could tell that he was choking the child to death. I could see the little girl's legs thrashing about as she begged and struggled for air. But James didn't let up.
The
as he
crazy
kept
part,
swinging
dog,
his
is
child.
one of these
It
little
was
kids
long
is
after
sitting
that
there. Like, why would
Stop
she
moving.
go
James
run off
glanced in his eyes
somewhere?
on the second door, and he proceeded to carry out the same old
Like,
act as he also
oh,
swung
but
his
where she
second
supposed
child
to
to death.
He crazy.
Once
He
again,
gonna find
I
her.
told myself that my eyes had to be playing some sort of trick on me because there was no way James had just killed his 2 little daughters and his pregnant wife in front of me.
Yeah, what the fuck? It's not funny. What the fuck? He saw him there, bruh.
Took out a shot and started digging.
He's
I wasn't able to see what he did next as I passed out a few minutes later. I woke up
strawberry
on the floor
kiwi.
a few hours later, and I was still fighting.
Strawberry
what I had witnessed
kiwi.
the night before.
Ew.
I wasn't sure if I could
Laffy
drive, so I
Taffy.
went walking. There was only a few hours
And
before
these
work,
Laffy
and I
Taffys
didn't
is
want to
hard.
start work
They're not.
again, so I called in sick. All I could see when I closed my eyes were the
They not
horrific
soft
scenes
at
of the
all.
night before. They terrified me so much that I didn't leave my house for
It
fear
tastes
that
just
I'd
like
run into
my
James.
taffy.
I told myself that I hallucinated it all to keep me sane, but it wasn't long till it was
I don't be
revealed
for you to not
Diane
hallucinate.
and her 2 children.
If you really saw
I
that
also
shit.
saw James was doing this urgent to help find his missing
Wow.
family, and I felt alone enough to tell that he was lying or putting on me. I thought about going to the police to tell them what I saw, but I knew they wouldn't believe me as I was heavily intoxicated, so my testimony would have been thrown out. Plus, it was my word against James. I didn't have any proof. He was also both the husband and father of the missing partner, so I knew the police were like my side with him. I was furious that James would get away with murdering his family, but unbeknownst to me, justice was close by. As James was arrested the very next day, he had apparently lied during an interrogation, and he failed a polygraph test. The officers, who were now very suspicious of him, backed him into a corner until he eventually confessed to murdering his wife and his two daughters. The incident took the entire country by
So
storm,
where was this
as it
in the
was
news?
revealed that James was having an affair. The cops believe it was this affair that led James
So
to
we
kill
can
his
know it's
entire
real.
family in order to be with his new wife. After a search at the oil storage facility, Diane's body was found buried in a shallow grave. The two girls were found in two oil storage tanks. James pleaded guilty in court, and he was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
But
It's been a while since this ghastly incident, but I was still horrified at the fact that I knew this man for all those years and couldn't tell that he was wearing a mask. It really made me
right,
wonder
you
how
talking
many
about
people
a lot
around me
a
could
lot of
one day
people that you
become
think is
cold-blooded
normal,
family killers.
that they
I also
couldn't
beat
do
myself
something
up
like
for
this.
witnessing the murder
That
and
crazy,
not being
but
able to do anything about it.
they can though.
I swore off beer since that day, as if I wasn't heavily drunk on that fateful day. Diane, her unborn child, and her 2 little girls might have been here today. At the end of it
Like
all,
somebody warned
with
me.
these gruesome murders
When somebody
troubling
warn you
is
about
that the big
themselves and
bad
that they
killer
can get
isn't
crazy
always
like that,
slowly down a dark street
and
like
then
we've
you
been led
try
to
not
believe.
to go there,
Sometimes the killer
you should
is
believe
sleeping in
him.
the very same bed as you.
Christopher warned me. He got the capacity to do all that.
The story you just heard was
Actually,
based on the
anybody
real-life
does,
case
actually,
of Christopher
but
Lee Watts.
yeah,
On August 13th, 2018,
Christopher would
in Frederick,
definitely
Colorado, American oil field
somebody
operator
set
Christopher
him off.
Watts brutally murdered his
He wouldn't be able to
pregnant wife
control
Shelly
it. So
by
all that
strangulation.
pent up
He
rage
then killed their 2 children, Belle, 4,
of what's
and Celeste,
happening
3, by smuggling them.
that wasn't like
After
his
the
fault when he
murders,
was
he
younger
shoved
and
his
like
children's
fucking
bodies
felt
into 2
hopeless
oil
and
tanks
like
before burying his wife Shelly
everything
in a
is
shallow
hated,
grave
you know?
close to the oil storage facility. Christopher originally played innocent as he made people believe
Yeah.
he was a grieving father. But all the investigations soon
It's a
pointed to him
recipe
as the
for
culprit. After his arrest on the 15th of August, he was
fuck
charged
that
with
shit.
3 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of murdering a child that was 12 years of age or younger, 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body, and the unlawful termination of a pregnancy. Chris had committed not only familicide,
So it's a real
but
story
also
something right
mass
there.
murder, feticide, filicide, exorcicide, and child murder.
Wow.
He was sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences plus 84 years without the possibility of parole on the 19th of November 2018, and he's currently carrying out his sentence at the Dodge Correctional Institution, a maximum
Dodge
security prison
Correctional
in
Institution.
Waupun, Wisconsin.
Oh, that's all I'm saying. That shit sound familiar in Waupun. Huh. Yeah.
Over the years,
There's some sick motherfuckers that done did some crazy,
who sadistic and
fucked
twisted
up
murders
shit
have given them
from
notoriety
Wisconsin.
and fame around the world.
Man,
Names like Jack the Ripper,
I ain't
the
fucking with it.
Zodiac Killer, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Ted Bundy are
Uh-huh,
right
see,
around
talking about some Jeffrey
There
Dahmer,
are
like,
lesser
you,
killers
why you
of
didn't have to
many
bring
past,
him
more
up?
twisted than we
He
could ever imagine.
traumatized the city forever.
Among them, one remains shrouded in mystery.
And the way they glorify and praise Jeffrey
These
Dahmer,
names are
you know
mixed
what I'm
much,
saying?
as while most were never
Sensationalize
caught,
what he did and stuff.
others are written off as myths.
That makes me think it's gonna be somebody else.
The
It's
reason
like, I
these
want to be
names are
bigger than
unreachable
him.
is that history hosts
But I don't want to just target,
only been described
I don't want to
as
just target
historical
gay men.
For years,
I want to go after everybody.
terrorized the streets of London. The world was introduced to what could have been the
It
first
sound like
ever
Jack
serial
the
killer
Ripper, but
who
I
were
don't know.
killers in the United States of America. It was December 30th, 1884, and the people of Austin, Texas were far from prepared for the killing spree that was about to erupt in their seemingly peaceful town as the new year began. At the time, many well-off families had black servants known as servant girls. And the 25-year-old cook, Molly Smith, would be the first victim of the psycho killer as her body was found the morning of New Year's Eve after she had been awoken by someone who proceeded brutally to stab her in bed before dragging her outside and mutilating her body with an axe.
Yeah. Crazy. No. No, thank you.
We brought in truckloads of mattresses with special doorbusters for quick delivery. Save up to $1,200
But
on adjustable mattress sets
yeah,
and special
more one
financing
dollar.
for 60 months. Save now at Ashley. Now, what made it seem peculiar to investigators at the time was that Molly had been murdered in the comforts of her bed at home. Naturally, the case caused a frenzy among the citizens of Austin, and a cloud of suspicion and fear quickly covered the town and its citizens. Precautions were put in place by the authorities soon after, and with those precautions came the general feeling that everything would be fine.
Huh.
Sadly, this wasn't the case, as in just the span of 1 year, 7 other murders would be committed in similar gruesome manners, introducing the world to the Serpent Girl Annihilator. In 1885, the Serpent Girl Annihilator's killing spree officially began. The victims included Clara Strand and her friend, Christine Marks, who were both attacked by an unidentified individual and severely wounded. Eliza Shelley, a mother of 3, was attacked in her bed and brutally murdered with an axe. Days later, Irene Cross was also
All these women,
stabbed
like,
multiple times and left to bleed to death in her bed.
this shit is ignorant.
The Annihilator's next victims were Rebecca and her 11-year-old daughter, Mary. Though Rebecca survived, Mary was unfortunately killed. In September 1885, a man attacked Gracie Vance, Orange Washington, and their friends, Lucinda Bynum and Patsy Gibson. While Lucinda and Patsy survived the attack, but were left severely injured, Gracie and Orange weren't so lucky. They were found dead once again in the comforts of their home. The Annihilator's last recorded victims were murdered that same night. They were later identified as Susan Hancock and Eula Phillips. Eula's husband, James Phillips, was also attacked during the assault on his wife, but luckily managed to survive.
Luckily, huh?
8 murders
If it was up to
occurred.
that guy and he knew he was gonna survive, he would have
The Annihilator's victims were
double,
primarily
triple,
African American women,
quadruple check
worked as domestic servants,
by hacking your ass
at the time. They
repeatedly.
were attacked indoors while asleep in their beds. 5 of them were dragged outside and killed. This psycho killer also raped and mutilated his victims. 3 of them were mutilated indoors, while only 1 victim was mutilated outdoors. Also adding to the brutality, the killer would insert sharp objects into their ears to watch his victims suffer.
What the fuck?
The Annihilator also attacked anyone present during the murders, including the victims' friends, boyfriends, and husbands, but spared children when possible. Investigators believed that those left alive by the killer were due to the fact that he refused to deviate from his unique and unusual pattern of killing. Survivors provided different descriptions. Some described him as a Black American man in his early 20s,
Wow.
while others described
Black
him as a white
American.
man in his mid-30s. Some claimed they barely saw him, while others believed he wore clothing that covered his entire body. The axe used by the killer was often left behind at the scene of the murder. Bloody footprints were also left behind, suggesting that the psycho killer may have removed his shoes to enter and leave the victims' homes unnoticed. These footprints provided the police with a clue. The killer at large was missing a toe. The police identified someone whose foot oddly resembled that of the killer, a man named Nathan Elgin. However, this lead turned out to be a dead end, as Elgin had been shot and killed 2 days before the killings began. Panic continued to consume the town, and soon enough, curfews and many other safety measures were added to the already existing list of
Somebody
precautions.
been shot and killed days before. That's
It didn't take long
vicious
before
too,
people
though.
began coming up with theories on who the killer was and why he did what he did. Crime scenes were left so bloody with knives and axes that the population began to ask themselves if multiple individuals or gangs were responsible for the crimes, and not just one man. Over time, the killer also stopped targeting Black servant girls only, leading many to believe it wasn't one person behind the killing spree, but actually different individuals in each case. Investigators, on the other hand, believed he would not target Caucasian females in his own crimes because he considered them too risky. But after a string of successful murders, he was emboldened to do so. Eventually, it became difficult for the police to know which cases were directly related to the servant girl annihilator. The town of Austin had been fully consumed by fear. With each citizen wondering if they were next on the killer's list. To fully understand the state of mind, we would have to ask ourselves, if we cannot feel safe in our own beds at home, then where exactly would we hide from the evil that comes after us? This psycho killer ensured that not even the rich could trust themselves. Not even those tasked to protect or ensure it was safe. And even those who were criminals hoped for justice. Unfortunately, this justice never came. But after what seemed to be forever, on Christmas Eve, 1885, the servant girl annihilator suddenly stopped killing the citizens of Austin, Texas. And as quickly as he came, he was gone. Many theories came about as to why the killings suddenly stopped. Some believe the police got lucky and incarcerated the culprit for another crime. The religious believe the spirits could not stand for his atrocities and decided it was time for him to atone for his sins. Many couldn't believe he was gone, and for weeks the streets remained empty. In the end, they were all glad they no longer had to sleep with one eye open. The psycho killer we know today as the servant girl annihilator was never identified, and his name was never discovered. However, his alias was given to him by the writer O. Henry during the crisis. Henry wrote a letter to his friend. The town is fearfully dull, except for the frequent raids of the servant girl annihilators, who make things lively in the dull hours of the night. Many questions still surround this case, and a very few have been answered. But just a few years after the killer managed to elude all authorities, a similar killer was born in the streets of London by the name of Jack the Ripper.
That's what I was thinking about.
Could it be the psycho killer simply grew bored of the small town and decided to move on to bigger and better things?
Probably.
These are the questions that remain on all our minds to this day. But I know for sure, no matter how many unanswered questions we may have, we should never forget the first psycho killer of modern day history.
The way y'all talk
It's
about
been
it,
so many years since it
I'm
happened,
nervous.
but I can still remember every second of it. It's like the memories have been so into my mind, and no matter how much I try to, I can never forget my time at the Tennessee Children's Home Society. I was just 9 years old when I was taken. I can't remember what my mother's face looked like, but I can remember her protest as they dragged me away. The year was 1946, and I had just been placed in an adoption agency in Memphis, Tennessee. While I can't remember what my mom looked like, I can still recall why they took me away from her. My mom was a single parent, so she had to overwork herself to feed for both of us. She usually left me alone for long periods of time due to her work. She often came back late at night. I was an only child, so being alone most of the time made me very mature for my age. I had to learn to take care of myself, as I did many things around the house on my own. Most of our neighbors accosted my mother as a neglectful child, but even at that age, I knew she was doing what she had to do to put food on our table. While we didn't spend much time together, I loved her, and I was grateful for everything that she was doing. Our life was and I loved being with her. Our time together didn't last as unfortunately. Things turned to be drastic. My mother had fallen terribly ill. She lost her job due to her health problems, and things soon became much harder for both of us. She still had some money that she saved up for work, so that was what she used to feed us during this time. Our neighbors, who heard about our situation, decided that my mother was unfit to take care of her. They were also spread to a nearby adoption agency in Memphis, and that's what they came for. I can never forget the moment they arrived, and it was the first time I saw the executive secretary of the agency, Miss Tam. I hadn't even spoken to her yet, and I already knew she was a cold woman. She and her colleagues basically ganged up on my mother and forced her to turn over my custody to her. My mother became impatient. She told them that she'd get better soon and she'd get back to work. But they told her there was no assurance of that. My mom did not want to let me go, and I didn't want to leave, but I was smart enough to know that we didn't have a choice. In a bid to convince my mother to let me go, they told her that I would only be temporarily placed in her care until she got better. So my mother begrudgingly agreed. Before we left, my mother asked if she could hug me and say goodbye, but they didn't allow her to as they dragged me out of our house. I can remember screaming in protest that they didn't allow her to say goodbye. She screamed and said she changed her mind, but her pleas all fell on deaf ears as they forcefully took me away. I struggled, but there was nothing I could do. As they put me in the car, I could see the faces of our neighbors who they thought were doing the right thing by calling the adoption agency. But unbeknownst to them, they had just sent me to a place that was worse than hell itself. My time at the Tennessee Children's Home Society was the worst years of my life. For some unexplained reason, my temporary placement had now become a permanent one, as no one told me when I was going back home. There was little to no food at the children's home, so I was hungry most of the time. The all-female staff that was in charge of us were white nursing officers. These women were very abusive, and they treated us horribly. I remember the incident when I asked for a little extra portion of food, and I was punched across the face. A blow tore my lip, and I remember crying through the painful
It's not funny.
Every day was
That's
worse
child
than the
abuse.
last, and I prayed every night that I'd leave them there. But even then, I knew that
It's
things
not
weren't in my
funny.
favor. The couples who came to the children's home looking to adopt often chose infants, and the older children, like me, were never picked or chosen as not many families were looking for older kids. Due to the lack of interest, the staff hated the older children at the home, and they often neglected us. This led most of us to band together and take care of ourselves, and that's how I met my friends, Katie and Natasha. Even though my days at the children's home were still horrible, my friends Katie and Natasha made things bearable. We'd usually tell jokes, we'd laugh with each other, and we'd talk about our dreams and the places we'd go when we finally left the children's home. For a while, I managed to find a little bit of happiness with my friends, but things didn't stay like that, as during
Yep,
this
what's the
time,
name? What
I
live?
started to notice some very strange things that were going on at the children's home.
Mama,
For
you
some
see
unknown
one with my
reason,
mirror?
most of the
My
kids
mirror
at the
is
children's home started to disappear. It was like they vanished into thin air as no explanation was given for their disappearance. I knew they weren't being adopted, as the entire children's home usually knew when a child was adopted. It wasn't only the older kids, as some babies also went missing too. Most of the other kids didn't seem to notice or care about this, as it seemed like I was the only one who noticed this.
It's weird, bro. Where did them kids
My
go?
mother always told me that I was a very perceptive child, so I guess that's why it stood out. I was concerned and worried about the strange disappearances, but I didn't do anything or ask any questions, as I knew that would lead to a meeting from the staff. But it wasn't long before Natasha mysteriously disappeared, and I knew I had to start asking questions now.
Before you end up
I
disappearing.
remember asking one of the nurses, an evil woman named Alice, what happened to Natasha. Alice had a scar on her cheek, and she always had a scorn on her face. Her eyes were bulging red, and she usually looked at children like we were the most disgusting things on the planet Earth. Everyone was terrified of her, but she was the only one who was on duty that afternoon. So I summoned up the courage, and I asked her if she knew.
No, that is nothing.
The first thing Alice did was slap me across the face as she screamed, "You insolent demon child! How dare you speak to me directly? Don't you dare ask me stupid questions or speak that child's name in this home again!" And with that, she stormed off. The slap didn't hurt as much as it used to because, as messed up as it sounds, I had already gotten used to the constant abuse I was subjected to at the children's home. So I wasn't going to give up, and I kept on spying on Alice at any chance I could get, as I knew she'd eventually lead me to an answer. It took a couple of days, but one night, I saw Alice carrying something to an empty plot of land in the children's home. I couldn't really see what she was doing, but it looked like she put the package in a shallow hole that she dug in the ground before filling the hole with sand. I told myself that she must have been hiding something important here, so I made plans to sneak out of
The
the
baby's
children's home
body.
and check what it was that very night. Today was the 14th of May,
Is that
1948.
before my boy?
I was just 11 years old
My
at the time.
Puka
I
Bear,
had managed to sneak out of the children's home that night, and I made my way to
Still
the
Puka
kitchen
Bear, I don't
garden.
care.
It was dark,
It's
but I
Puka.
could tell what Alice had dug about the fresh dirt. I didn't have a shovel, so I had to use my hands. It hurt to dig with my bare hands, but I was determined. It wasn't long till I reached something, as the hole was for the shovel. But what I saw horrified me to the core.
What? What you see?
Sticking out of the dirt was the hand of a child, and as I cleared away a little more sand, I saw the decaying face of my friend Natasha. There are a lot of things that can permanently scar an 11-year-old child. But this didn't just scar me, it destroyed my
That bitch
entire
is peaceful as hell. That.
I could tell that Natasha wasn't the only one buried in the shallow grave, as I could see the remains of infants and some other children. I started
You
to
put all
scream
them
at the top of my lungs.
in
It
one
wasn't long
grave.
before Alice and the staff found me. They immediately dragged me back to the children's home, and they reported what I did to the head of the agency, Miss Tam. Both she and Alice then proceeded to beat me within an inch of my life, and they made sure that I swore never to repeat what I saw. I screamed for days until I found prison, and I kept screaming.
It would have been better for them just to kill her.
Horrific image out of my mind.
You know?
Miss Tan and Alice would sedate me whenever I screamed. They would sometimes lock me up and leave me to start anytime they wanted to teach me a lesson.
Yeah.
My only friend, Katie, would often sneak a small portion of her already written food to me, and I'm guessing that's what kept me alive. I still don't know how I survived the whole ordeal, and I can never forget Miss Tan's cold eyes as she left me up and said, "I never killed you with my bare hands when you did, but some of my clients have started showing interest in older children. That is the only reason you are alive, as your worthless life might go for a good price." A couple of days passed before I was finally married. I was told the couple wanted to adopt a female child between the years of 8 and 13, and I was chosen.
That's it.
I remember crying as
Kind
I
of like specifically looking
I
for a
wanted to
little
be
bit
adopted.
that
I wanted
age
to go
and
home
shit.
to my mother. I was thankful that my mother had died, so I couldn't go back to her. But this new family was my only option. It hurt me badly to hear that, and I cried profusely as they covered up my bruises and made me presentable for my new family. The last thing I remember from the Tennessee Children's Home Society was telling Katie goodbye and a satisfied look on Miss Tan's face as they drove me away to start my new life. Luckily for me, my adoptive parents, Frank and Lucille, were very kind. Frank was a wealthy businessman, and Lucille was a psychologist turned teacher. She and Frank could tell that I was traumatized, so they took care of me and gave me the help I needed. It took a while, but I eventually managed to heal. Shockingly, just 2 years after I had been adopted, I've seen on the news that Miss Beulah George Tagg is an American child adopter who operated the Tennessee Children's Home Society, an adoption agency in Memphis, Tennessee. The reporter stated that most of the children were either forcefully taken from their families or kidnapped and sold to wealthy couples and families. It also stated that most of the children were abused during their time at the children's home, and in some morbid instances, some of them were murdered. Splash out without finding door catcher.
Yeah.
Zero budget balloons. Easy filling, self-sealing water balloon.
My water broke at 18 weeks, and my doctor told us there's no way to save the baby. The air got sucked out of the room.
For 50, about 5,000 estimated children were stolen, and about 19 officially reported children were killed due to abuse. Some of Ted's victims were confirmed to be buried in Elmwood Cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee. However, a lot of other children were never accounted for. The exact number of deceased children remains unknown, as there was an estimate of about 500 deaths due to mistreatment. A state investigation that started on the 11th of September 1950 due to the rising instances of adoption fraud and a black market baby adoption scheme that made 10 millions of dollars led to the closure of Tennessee Children's Home in 1950. But Georgia Tan died of cancer 3 days before charges were placed, so she was never prosecuted. I was still a child when this all happened, so I didn't fully understand the situation. But I looked into anything when I grew older, and that's when I realized that Miss Tanner and the adoption
Motherfuckers is
agency
sick, for
had some
real.
sort of messed up baby. I also found out that I was one of the lucky few to be put with a good family, as I heard some of the children were put with abusive families or used as child labor on farms. Looking into the incident brought back a lot of bad memories, but I was eventually able to move on from it. Once I was in my 20s, I looked for my birth mother, and I soon found out that the children's home had lied to me that she only died about 3 years ago. I also found out that she looked for me with everything she had. While I love my adoptive parents, I still wish I could have given her that hug and told her how much I loved her. I am married now to a good man, and I have a daughter. Even after all these years, I know I can never forget my time at the Tennessee Children's Home Society. I read that the massive scandal surrounding the adoption agency caused adoption of laws in Tennessee, and I was really glad, as I would never wish what I went through on my worst enemy. Sometimes I wonder what happened to my friend Kayla. I hope she was able to survive that dreadful place. I know that she's out there somewhere, and I wish she managed to get a happy ending like I did. The tale you just heard is a story I pulled from the pages of my mother, Miss Olivia Jones, died. She's 86 years old now. She was born in 1937, and she's still going strong. My mother always took me to the memorial for the Tennessee Children's Home Society victims in Elmwood Cemetery when I was a kid, and I never understood why until I read this story. I'm glad she was able to survive, so I decided to share her story with all of America, the horrific events that transpired at that adoption agency so many years ago, and to allow the current adoption agencies to put more care into their wards. Our children are the future, and we should take care of them as best we can.
In April 2010, a man named Joe Sanders uploaded a post to Craigslist advertising the sale of small diamond ring. Jim lived in the small city of Edgewood in Washington State, along with his wife, Charlene, and their two sons, aged 14 and 10. Shortly after the advertisement was posted, Jim was contacted by a person claiming to be interested in purchasing the ring. Jim then invited them over to his home so they could view the ring in person before negotiating the price. Then, on the evening of April 28th, a male and a female arrived at the Sanders home, the same people that had called ahead to arrange the meeting. Charlene Sanders recalls them being affable, even a cute couple, who thought that the ring would make the perfect Mother's Day gift. After reviewing the price, Jim Sanders asked how the couple would like to pay, and then it would become evident that they had no intention of doing so.
Coffee looked like
The
that.
male half of the couple pulled out a firearm, catching Jim completely off guard and leaving him no choice but to hand over the ring. As Jim did so, the female half of the couple rushed to the back door of the Sanders home, opening it to allow entry to two other criminal accomplices. The entire family was then corralled into the home's TV room, where the robbers made them kneel before binding their hands behind their backs. After the family was secured, the robbers demanded that Jim and Charlene reveal the location of additional valuables. I had a gun to the back of my head with a countdown, 3, 2, and I'm just screaming and my kids are standing there, Charlene Sanders later said. I'm saying, please God, don't let them kill me. Don't let them kill my kids. And they just ripped my home apart. The robbers knew that the longer they stayed in the Sanders house, the more they stood a chance of being apprehended by law enforcement. So, with this in mind, they positively ransacked the house in search of anything worth stealing. One of the robbers remained in the living room, acting as crowd control, but it seems he was far more forceful and intimidating than was required. His threats to execute both Jim and Charlene were so convincing that the two sons became inconsolable with fear. They began wailing at the top of their lungs, so loud that the robbers became concerned that the neighbors might hear their cries. The robber responsible for controlling the family began to threaten the two boys with beatings unless they remained quiet. But this only increased their agitation, and their sobs grew even louder than before. Their disobedience incensed the robber, who became increasingly agitated at the refusal to stop crying, and he made good on his promise to beat the children mercilessly. The parents were forced to watch a living nightmare unfold before their eyes. Charlene Sanders reacted by offering up her own wedding ring to keep her children from being beaten. "That night was horrific," Charlene said. "When they ripped my wedding ring off my finger, we just kept saying, 'Just take what you want, just take what you want, don't kill us.'" Jim Sanders, on the other hand, had a very different reaction to the sight of his two sons being beaten. It seems Jim was initially rather pragmatic about the idea of his home being invaded and ransacked, as he knew that if he just kept his mouth shut and played for survival, the robbers would depart just as quickly as they arrived. Material possessions could be replaced, damage to their home could be repaired. Gunshot wounds, however, are not so easily mended. Yet when the robbers began beating his children, when they began hurting what was most precious in the world to him, he was overcome by a burning, all-consuming rage. It's incredibly hard to break free from tightly secured zip tie, especially when you're binding a person's wrist behind their back. But somehow, Jim Sanders was so utterly filled with fury that he managed to snap the thick plastic of the zip tie.
Yep.
with nothing
He
but
was so
pure
enraged
force.
that his child was getting beaten
In
like
any other
that.
circumstances,
He broke
Jim
free.
would have known better than to rush a man
And I don't know
with
why he
a
looked like he got
pistol
makeup on too.
But by that point, the red mist had well and truly descended. Jim found his feet, leaned forward, and charged his son's attacker, screaming as he ran. In the movies, the hero might dodge a few of his assailant's bullets before tackling him to the ground. He then ripped the pistol from their hands before turning on them, using it to defend the family he worked so hard to raise. But life isn't a movie, and Jim Sanders wasn't anywhere fast enough to outmaneuver the robber. The gunman stepped back, aimed, and put 3 bullets into Jim's body before he even got within 6 feet of him. For Charlene Sanders, it was the single worst moment of her entire life. "I just kept saying, Clint, please stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with us. Don't go, don't go." And he was just barely gasping for air, she said. My husband was a hero. He told his boys he would always protect his family, and he'd die protecting his family. When they killed him the way they did, I couldn't believe it. But I was also in awe that the 3 of us were alive, and I was praising God for that.
Mm-hmm.
Charlene might be able to talk with the
She looked
subject
pale
with
as
a
hell.
degree of magnanimity today, but at the time, she was beyond traumatized, and the men responsible for her husband's death weren't exactly faring any better. The murderer's accomplices were nothing short of horrified at what had occurred, and understood that, by that point, the situation was far beyond their control. A non-violent home invasion might soon become lost in a stack of incomplete cases, but a straight-up murder, the police would track them incessantly for such a crime. In the end, the robbers fled the bloody crime scene with cell phones, a laptop computer, jewelry, and an assortment of other valuables. And knowing the kind of heat which was about to come down on them, they drove south, all the way through Oregon until they reached California's northern border. A number of homicide detectives were assigned to the case, and it wasn't long before they discovered that
yeah.
they made a single fatal mistake. They had communicated with Jim Sanders using an email account tied to one of their real names. The suspects were then featured on the America's Most Wanted television show and were named as Clavin Bernard, Joshua Reese, Kiyoshi Higashi, and Amanda Knight.
Mm-hmm.
4 heroin addicts who were foolish enough to take the front license plate